This is a piece-by-piece video on the piece Abandoned Dreams. Abandoned Dreams is the second piece in a 4-part series on self-realization that I'm completing spring 2020. This work is done in oils on board. That's what I've been working on this spring. This piece, I moved away from some of my usual line work and worked in a little more of an al prima style, which is a wet and wet style. I didn't do it all in one setting, I did it in several settings, but the way the brushwork is very al prima, and the way the edges between spaces, like between the tree and the sky and the figure in the sky, is more of an al prima style. I'm trying to get away from hard black lines a little bit. I do enjoy relying on them, and maybe for the fourth piece I will go back to them entirely, but you gotta mix it up, you gotta see what you're capable of, and I thought this piece would be enhanced by the use of a slightly different style. The concept behind this piece, Abandoned Dreams, is the idea that in order for your life to truly flourish, a portion of your dreams will have to be abandoned. And while it is still sad, it is absolutely necessary. It's sort of kind of the opposite of the whole Peter Pan experience. Peter Pan wanted to abandon no dreams, and then you can't grow up. And that's a different type of tragedy. And this is kind of the tragedy of necessity while still maintaining the necessity. And I thought through a lot of imagery. I had the idea for this piece way before I had any functional imagery for this piece. There was a while I considered using a wishing well, because wishing wells are full of abandoned dreams, after a manner of speaking. And then I thought about stars and wishing upon a star, and I went through a lot of things, but in the end I decided to go with the tree, because it's a familiar subject, and because I thought that it was very cross-culturally relatable, and it was a way to express a necessary loss visually without having to explain it, because you can do the leaves on the tree and no leaves on the branch, and that's enough. People can understand it was a need. I also liked using the tree of life, because the tree of life is such a fundamental understood idea, and it's a very round tree, it's a very full lush tree, so it's easy because it's such a use, like such a known, so because it's such a known image, it's easy to express something wrong with it. If it wasn't, like if it was a tree that was naturally misshapen, or maybe a cherry tree, or a tree that not everybody knows, because the tree of life isn't necessarily a real tree, right? I mean, some people would argue it is, but it isn't. It's the archetype of all trees. It is the most wholesome. It is the most lush. It is the most emblematic of longevity life. So, showing a piece chopped off of it shows that there was an issue. There was a problem. Something had arisen. And that's why I went with this. I also went with a very glowing, very busy sky. I also wanted to do work with the shadows. I really, really like using shadows. I like the concept of how we relate to our surroundings. I like how I think the shadows, when you're doing them correctly, show your impact, and it shows part of that connection with your surroundings, and you're not just yourself, right? You're yourself and you're your shadow. You're yourself and you're your impact on everything around you. So I really enjoy working with shadows. I actually used a light model for this painting. I had an acquaintance pose under strong direct light, and then I used a placeholder for the tree. We took 2 round tables and put the tabletops together so they would be higher. And so I had a light model for both the figure and sort of for the tree. I did toy with the idea of making an entire clay tree and then resetting up a miniature clay tree in the same lighting and then photoing it, and it probably would have been better, but you have to pick what is worth going after, because when all possibilities are on the table, you can cripple yourself into inaction by pursuing the perfect. So I went for the possible. And not that something somewhat more perfect is possible as well, but you get what I'm saying. And then also, I really like painting tools, and so this was an excuse to paint a chainsaw, and I'm very happy with it. I really like painting tools. I like articulating our intellectual power of manipulation on the world, because we are very, very capable to participate in this absolutely greater way with our environment, through these tools that we have created. And they are one of the marvels of humanity, is tools. So excuses to paint tools. I don't know how universal the imagery of a chainsaw is, so I'm kind of breaking my own rules a little bit, but I didn't think an axe was direct enough in this time. You know, an axe is a romantic notion right now, and I wanted the practical. And so I think painting an axe or a handsaw in 2020 would have portrayed the romantic as opposed to the practical. And I wanted to go with this idea of the matter of fact practical of the everyday person. And that's why it made sense to me to do a chainsaw, because if you really are deciding what is necessary as part of you and what isn't, if you really are curating your life, if you are pruning for longevity the things that can be reached, you need to reach for the practical, the available, and the functional tools. Not the tools you wish you had, but or not the tools you wish you had time for, and not the romantic notion of it, but just the available. So that's why I went with the chainsaw. And I think it relates it well. I'm sure I could portray Abandoned Dreams better, and I haven't thought of it yet. But I really like the idea. So where this falls in line with Falling Awake is the first piece in the series, and it's kind of the idea before the idea. Falling Awake is realizing that you want to realize more, and Abandoned Dreams is kind of deciding what it will take and making those first practical steps. And this has been my piece by piece video. I hope you enjoyed it. I wanted to show you the back side of this board. So these are these small boards that are the saved pieces in between the skim boards. And I'm going to be mounting 3 eye hooks on the back, 2 on top for a wire, and then 1 on the bottom, and it will create the floating canvas effect without routing. So, and a little bit of the board grain does show through, and I think it enhances the work. But there would be reasons not to use it. If I wanted to get rid of that grain, I could have gessoed the board first and still been able to work on board. But you can do works like this on canvas. I'm just moving away from that for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day.